Eagles Entertainment.
Welcome, Eagles everywhere, to the Eagles Insider Podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group. I'm Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro. Hope you're having a very healthy Wednesday as we get to the middle of June. Training camp not that far away. We are keeping our fingers crossed. In this Eagles Insider Podcast, we're going to talk about training camp from the perspective of a young player trying to make the team, not a draft pick, somebody who's been signed after the draft. How do you make a roster with such limited on-field time? Former Eagles defensive tackle Hollis Thomas did just that back in 1996, and he's here to give some advice to the long shots in this 2020 training camp period. But let's begin with a look at the regular season. We've taken a first look at the Washington Redskins, the Eagles' opponent in Week 1. How about the Los Angeles Rams, the opponent in Week 2? Play-by-play announcer for the Rams, JB Long, joins us talking about a team that has made a whole lot of changes in this 2020 offseason.
Week 2, September 20th, Lincoln Financial Field, the Los Angeles Rams come to town, and we get our first look at the Rams. JB Long, the play-by-play voice of the LA Rams, joins me here on the Eagles Insider Podcast. JB, how are you?
They're doing well, thank you. All things considered, I understand circumstances abound, not many of them good, but wishing the same back to you.
That's what we're doing here. We are a diversion for what people really love, and that's the NFL. It's interesting, the narrative that I would say that I see from people talking about the Rams is, oh, look what they lost. Oh, look what they don't have. Blah, 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 blah. And then you go back and you go, okay, well, what kind of football team is this? A team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And last year, despite all of the ups and downs and the injuries and the moves and this, still a 9-7 football team that just missed the playoffs. I think people are underselling the LA Rams. What do you say about that?
I think there's a case to be made for that, and I have made that case myself. As close to it as I am, I also think there are some, hard realities that the Rams were dealing with last year that, could have made them an 8-8 team. The fact of the matter, I think, first and foremost, is the division in which they play is much stiffer than it was when the Rams won their NFC West championships in 17 and 18, Sean McVay's first couple of years. And I think that's really what was reflected in last year's results and record. And a tougher strength of schedule, division games not as much of a cakewalk as maybe they had been previously. And now that's the reality they come back to in 2020, where the 49ers are expected to be atop, and the Seahawks are once again picked ahead of them. And I think a lot of people will see this season as much as any as a referendum on Sean McVay, who has also hired 3 new coordinators. So I'm intrigued to see all of that play out. But yeah, there are some household names, be it Brandon Cooks, Todd Gurley, Dante Fowler, Corey Littleton, who are no longer with the Rams on both sides of the football.
And while they are really household names, but they're also big-time talents. So, JB, tell me, how do you think the Rams have reloaded for 2020? And give me the case why they're maybe a better football team, at least as we kind of project to September.
I really think the crux of the matter is the offensive line, which is interesting because they didn't invest in it either through the draft or free agency or via trade, at least not yet. And they've essentially doubled down on the group that they have in-house. And I will say that I think there are 8 players capable of being NFL starters that they haven't already proven to be. So I'm not saying it's a poor strategy. It's just because it was the area that broke down most obviously in 2019. I think the external expectation was that the Rams would really go to work to retool that because Jared Goff was not the same quarterback in 19 that he was as a Pro Bowler the 2 years prior, when there was total cohesion and really Pro Bowl level performances up and down that offensive line. So I think it'll come back again to that. On the other side of the football, it's the first year for Sean and the Rams without Wade Phillips. And I think that's, by design, I think that's the direction that Sean really truly wanted to go. And it's not many head coaches in this league that have a chance to see year 4 and start to kind of turn over and tweak the staff to their preferences. But to do so with Brandon Staley, who's a first-time NFL defensive coordinator, was a bold move akin to the one that the Rams made when they hired Sean as the youngest head coach in NFL history. So I'm really curious to see not just personnel, but also scheme and execution, how they will look differently. And, given the lack of on-field work, I can't even say that I have a truly great pulse for how that is going to play out in terms of X's and O's yet.
Yeah, and that's why I think getting the Rams in week 2 early in the season for an Eagles team that returns the coaching staff intact and the schemes stay the same, the coordinators remain the same. So maybe I agree with you. That's something that you look for early season advantages, and the Eagles come back whole. So maybe that makes a difference. Kind of just give me a little overview of the offense and overview of where Jared Goff is in his development. How did he react coming off a Super Bowl season? What was he like last year?
I have to say I've known Jared since college. I covered his games at Cal, and he's got a great poker face. He's never changed positive or negatively on this roller coaster that he's been on. I do think as he matures as a quarterback, a year older, a year deeper into his professional career, and now certainly given the money that he's making, more and more will fall on his shoulders. That happens with Carson Wentz and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and every other quarterback who absorbs more and more of his team's salary cap. And I think Jared's ready for that. He and Sean McVay should be in lockstep at this point in their tenure together. The one thing that has continued to change is kind of the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator role. But really, I think at the heart of the matter, that's still Sean McVay to Jared Goff and a one-to-one communication. So I don't expect that to alter much. I think when he turns around and doesn't have number 30 Todd Gurley to hand off to or play action fake to, I think that'll probably be the biggest difference. And the Rams address that need by using their first pick of this draft. It was a second-round pick on Cam Akers out of Florida State. And the Rams continue, I think you could say, to run against the grain in terms of the capital that they invest in the running back position, both in terms of draft capital and then also financial capital, given what they're paying for Todd Gurley to play for the Falcons. So I think that'll be a dominant storyline. At receiver, I think they're still fine, trading away Brandon Cooks. I think at this juncture of his career and the trajectory of the Rams made sense. They'll again pay a financial price to make that happen, but they were gravitating to more 2 tight end sets and 2 or 3 receiver looks in December of last year anyway, and I suspect we'll see a good bit of that again here in 2020. So that would leave Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp at receiver with Josh Reynolds behind them and Van Jefferson, who they drafted. So I think they're still really strong at the skill position players. But again, can you protect? Can you run outside zone? Can you open up lanes the way they did for Gurley when it was going really well in 17 and 18? I know McVay thinks they can. That remains to be seen, and I think will be one of the earliest kind of puzzles to sort out as early as week 2 when they travel to Philadelphia.
JB, last one for you. You mentioned Gurley, so you can't mention him here. Most significant departure from the Rams in this offseason and the most significant addition to the Rams roster?
Yeah, good question. My heart wants to say Corey Littleton, who was wearing the green dot and was in the middle of their defense. He was a rock, and he was a Pro Bowl special teamer too. So I think that's a big loss. And since they didn't draft or sign his clear and obvious replacement, I think that will be the biggest question mark on the defensive side of the ball. But akin to that is replacing Clay Matthews and Dante Fowler on the edges. And they did bring Leonard Floyd in from Chicago, and they did draft Terrell Lewis out of Alabama to maybe shore up their edge rush. And it seems like they want to actually prioritize being stout against the run on the perimeter, which is curious. And I'm very interested to see how that looks and plays out. My hunch is that they want to, stuff runs on early downs, get teams into known passing situations, and let Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey do what they do best. Whether or not they're able to execute that and play into that plan remains to be seen. But to have a void on the middle of your defense at this stage of the summer at middle linebacker, and then also have questions to answer in terms of who creates the edge rush and teams with Aaron Donald in that pass rush game are 2 really, really big voids, I think, that are left to be filled on defense. And then biggest addition, I would have to say Cam Akers through the draft. I mean, Sean McVay does not seem settled based on the options in-house at running back. And when you're replacing Gurley, who had more carries, more touches than any running back in the NFL in his 3 years with McVay, I think that's where you have to gravitate towards in terms of biggest addition on offense. I would not be surprised if even with a truncated offseason program that the rookie comes in and has the lion's share of the work, starting in week 1.
JB Long, play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Rams. Thank you for giving us the first look at September 20th.
I appreciate the distraction on this end as well. I hope we get to see it in person in week 2. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, man. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
All right, bye now.
Now more than ever, we've come to understand the importance of celebrating special moments with those we love. The Eagles Autism Foundation and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia want to help you commemorate these occasions. Throughout June, you'll have the unique opportunity to recognize someone special by posting a message on the video board at Lincoln Financial Field. Visit PhiladelphiaEagles.com/Eagles Autism Foundation to learn how to celebrate with a shout out. So we look with great excitement at that Week 2 matchup, the Eagles and the Rams in South Philadelphia. Now let's talk about the long shots and how they're going to make this football team. Hollis Thomas parlayed a great deal of athletic ability and power and desire into a long NFL career. It started in Philadelphia. We know him well with his radio appearances, his media time, and he's got a lesson for all the young players trying to make the 53-man roster.
Hollis Thomas. You know, I was thinking about you, Hollis, because there's obviously no work on the field in the spring here. And all of these players who were not drafted, who are trying to make teams in the NFL, I feel like they're really going to pay the price. You were not drafted in 1996 out of Northern Illinois, and yet you made the team. You made the all-rookie team by the Football News in '96.
I was thinking. You know what? I was just thinking about that when you guys were showing these virtual workouts. I think the guys who are coming in. First of all, it's a new way that they're bringing guys in to just try out for the team during these mini camps. So they're going to obviously miss that work. And then it's like as an undrafted free agent, if they're not real high on you, you're not going to get that many reps. So it's kind of like you're kind of going to fall by the wayside, really, if you don't show some pops in the few reps that you do get. So you have to be ready. So there's got to be some practice time together for the current guys who you actually going to truly count on. The guys that are free agents, I was fortunate enough to come into a situation to where they had some older guys where I was able to learn, but I was able to learn on the job. These guys are going to be in a catch-22 because I don't know how they're going to do it. It's kind of like when they were trying to take away the preseason games. That really puts the guys who are the free agents in a catch-22 because they're not able to display their work in an actual live setting. So, man, it's I don't know. I think all the guys. I think this is the one thing that they're going to have to do. They're going to have to be ready. It's not going to be time for any child's play or any mess ups. So go ahead.
Then how do you get ready, Hollis? If you're not can you do drills on your own? That obviously they're going through the classroom work. They're going through, and the coaches will tell them. Matt Burke, defensive line coach, will tell them, "Hey, work on this drill, work on that drill." But you can't replicate going up against another player.
Well, no, you really can't replicate going up against another player. But the one thing I think you can do is you can be ready, and I think that's the main thing. Is one of the main things that I think a lot of coaches get pissed off at is when you come in and you don't know what to do. The first thing you can do is they're going to give you some plays to know. Know those plays. That's number one, because you don't want that to be the reason that you get sent home because you didn't know what the hell to do out there. Number two is hustle. When they put you in there, hustle should not be one of the sticking points. And the third thing is make plays. I was like, but the very first thing, know what the hell you're doing, because there's nothing worse than them sticking you out there and you having a mental error, and you had the time to go through it. It's like, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be real rough because I was afforded the time we had walkthroughs and stuff. So I think that's actually, you know what? That's what they need to do. Is like you have to get some dummies and stuff and get a way where you can walk through each assignment yourself. Also, the physical part, you're probably already there. But the worst part is the mental errors. Because if you do a mental error, the opposing team can hit their head on the goalpost, man. That's like if I learned anything The main thing, you can be a physically gifted, most physically gifted athlete known to man. But if you come out there and make a mental mistake after mental mistake, you're going quicker than anything.
Hollis, I look back at the 1996 Eagles roster, and Rhett Hall and Kevin Johnson started at defensive tackle, Ronnie Dixon, Andy Harmon, and you. Who did you beat out for a job, do you think? It was kind of a weird dynamic. The way it was brought to me, I was behind Ronnie J. I was the fourth tackle in the 4-man rotation. So when I went out there, I had to play left or right. I think I ended up beating Ronnie and KJ out mainly because Andy Harmon he got injured, so he was out by they always take one ankle twist away from being a starter. That moved me up, but then as you know the off the field antics with KJ, and then Ronnie Dixon. I can't figure out both him and Ronnie Dixon because at one point in the season I was just getting spot duty, but I had more tackles and more plays. I had made more plays than both of them put together. Was the way Ray Rose brought it to me, and I think the Redskins the game before I actually started. The Redskins game. Ray was thinking about starting me because the game before I had a really good game the game before, and I was only getting like 15 or 20 plays. It's like case in point, I got 15 plays my very first game. I made 3 tackles, and the third tackle was a tackle to seal the deal to stop the Redskins Brian Mitchell from getting a first down and making them punt. Where eventually we ran out of the clock and got in the victory formation at RFK Stadium. So it was games like that, and just doing like what I said. I knew my stuff. The first thing, like my training camp, I was kind of physically gifted, and I was throwing people around and stuff. But I kept making mental errors, and the coach pulled me to the side. I was like, dude, you have an immense amount of physical talent. He's like, but if you don't get on your stuff, learn the playbook. He's like, you can't come out in a walkthrough and have a mental bust. He's like, you have to be in a. He's like, and then a full pulling to the side. He said, what the hell do you be doing? He said, I be seeing you jacking around all the time. He said, you need to have your, excuse the language. He said, you need to have your ass in your book. When we're not in meetings and stuff, he's like, get your butt in your book, get your head in your book, and because they liked me and they wanted me around. But the only way you're going to be around is if you know your stuff. You have I had the physical attributes. He said, but if you don't know your stuff and know what you're supposed to do, they can't use you. Yeah, and that's anywhere. Yeah, the mental thing is, I guess people don't really consider that, but that's obviously what these young kids do. Hollis, your perspective on what the Eagles have done at defensive tackle in this offseason with Javon Hargrave coming in and how important it is. Yeah, tell me about it.
I do that. When they got him, I was like, oh, because I knew it was between him and Sayamalu. You remember when they drafted Sayamalu? But I think he got drafted first. And that was just what I was hearing during the time of the draft. And I've been watching the kid play. Dude, it's him and Fletcher together, and then you bring Malik Jackson too. And I don't know who the next other guy's gonna be, but they should pose. This should be real formidable if everybody's able to stay healthy. I think we should wreak havoc on the entire NFL, especially in the interior. It should be something like we've never seen in quite some time. The strength, speed, and power that those guys, those three guys alone possess. Should make the outside guys should have double-digit sacks, at least 2 or 3 of the guys. Because of the way those guys crush the pocket and are always on the go, and plus you're able to rotate the guy. The key, I think, is being able to rotate the guys and not miss a step. Because when you can do that as a team in general, you're going to make it to the playoffs, and then it's up to those guys. They'll be in the driver's seat of where else you go after the playoffs.
Yeah. So finally, Hollis, the word of advice you would have to all of these Eagles players who are rookies, who weren't drafted, and who are wondering how they're going to make this football team, what would you say for them to do?
The main thing to do is come in. First of all, come in shape. But second, but really first, know the plays that the coaches give you, pretty much and the hustle. It's like the number one thing that nobody wants to turn on practice film and see is somebody loafing. You know what a loaf is, don't you?
Yeah.
A loaf means that everybody else is running to the ball. But you took it upon yourself to kind of like lollygag and jog because it doesn't seem that important to you. That's it. If anything, you do not want to loaf ever. Like they should not turn on the film, and you should not be running. Put it this way: they used to call most of the time the DBs would get the loafs because you would see if a defensive lineman is passing you up, not even in the pursuit drill, but pursuing the ball, then you're loafing as a defensive back. As a defensive lineman, if you're not hauling ass, that's what they call it, haul ass. You everybody to the rock because you never know what can happen. But the other thing, the ultimate thing is the middle point we were just talking about. If you can have all the physical attributes in the world, but if you don't know what the hell you're doing, man, they cannot use you. It's like you might be around for a hot second, but then it's going to come down to, does he know the defense? Can he comprehend? Can he comprehend the stuff that we're doing? Because if you can't comprehend, they can't get you on the field.
That's the advice, Hollis Thomas. 14 years, right? 14 years.
You were there. You were here.
Well, but after you left the Eagles, you were kind of on the other side of the teams we liked.
So you basically telling me after I left the Eagles, you lost track of me? Wow.
Well,
man.
Look, I mean, with the Saints, the Rams,
talk about a friendship gone to the wayside, man.
Hey, I love you, man.
Yeah, I love you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Take care.
That will do it for this Eagles Insider podcast, presented by Lincoln Financial Group. Insider Dave Spadaro with you. If you have a moment to give us a rating, we would appreciate it. The 5 stars help when we try to get the stars of this team on the podcast. So check it out. We've got the link for you in the bio, in the library of your podcasts. So thanks to Ray Doyle. Thanks to Peter Kelly. Thanks to all of you for tuning in each and every episode. We're back on Monday with more from the Eagles Insider Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day, and fly, Eagles, fly.